Hey guys, it's Woody, and this video is about career choices. I've had it sort of bouncing around in my head for a while now to make, and I basically just want to make it so I share it with you guys. And I'm going to talk about my own history, and I'm going to talk about the choices that are in front of you, what I think of them, and it's going to be a long video. So get comfortable, settle into your chair, and we'll talk for a while. I'm also going to share some of my own history. So if you guys have watched all my videos before and you know it, then prepare for some repetition because it's relevant to the video. And I don't want people who've never seen me before to miss out. I'm on my third or fourth career now. Oftentimes when people are choosing what they want to do when they grow up, it's presented as a permanent decision. You know, the only thing that they're going to be doing for the rest of their life. And that's not really true. However, it is like what is often true, more often than not, is it is the educational basis for which all your other careers will be able to be built upon, right? So, you know, if you choose an accounting degree, then you're going to have a background in business forever. You might be an accountant at first, you could be an entrepreneur later, you might be some sort of like even a computer programmer, but your education is going to include a lot of accounting. And to me, that's the choice you're making when you're choosing your first career. It's possible, because life is long and you get to do anything you want, to add on to that. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people just, you know, even if they switch careers, they just, you know, continue working on their first educational background. So that's the thing. Like if you're a speech therapist, you know, every job you choose is going to close some doors, but you're probably not going to go from speech therapy to accounting or computer science. You're probably going to go from speech therapy to occupational therapy or nurse or doctor or pharmaceutical sales or something. But somewhere in that, you know, like I picture the, you know, speech therapy and then like a pie wedge that comes out, and those are all your choices that you build on it. If you're an accountant, you know, there's all kinds of business options that are open to you. You know, you could go from an accounting degree to entrepreneur. Like, attorney's a really good one. Knowledge is a light load to carry. So if you have a background in law, you're not stuck being just a lawyer. There's lots of things that you can be, but you know, that law background is something that will probably fuel all your career choices going forward. What happened with me is my first job, I had an accounting major. And I was working as an accountant during the day and going to school at night. And I hated it. Like it wasn't for me. And accounting's not a bad job. You know, my dad was an accountant. He liked it. And I had ex-coworkers who enjoyed themselves. And I have a friend who's an accountant. And he's doing great. Like really great. He's the head guy at a big firm. But for me, when I drove there, you know, I would, you know, I've said this before, I would daydream about crashing my car and how much time off that injury would get me. Like, if I broke my arm, yeah, I'd probably get like 2 weeks off for a right arm, 1 week for the left, maybe. I don't know. These are the kind of thought processes I had, and it made me realize that accounting is not where I should be spending the rest of my life. It's why I added MIS as a major. Management Information Science, it's kind of like a major for IT people. And I added that as opposed to comp sci because it had a lot of class overlaps with accounting, and I could get two majors without really doubling up on all my classes. You know, it was just like, I forget, I'll make up a number, like 8 more classes and I'd get a second major, as opposed to comp sci, maybe it was 12 or something. So I did that. And then I ended up getting a master's in engineering. Did I say this already? It's my first take on this video, with a focus in computer science, and that's my background. I worked in comp sci for, I don't know, 15 or 20 years, something like that. It was a long time. And I started as a junior programmer doing maintenance on other people's code. And then I did my own stuff, and the senior programmer. And then I became a tech lead. And then my last title was senior software architect. That's as high as my titles went. And I worked at Cisco, which is a big Fortune 500 company. So I feel like I know my thing, right? I've hired a lot of people. I've even fired a couple. You know, not the last word on what it's like to work in the IT or comp sci field, but I'm also, you know, I've been around the block and I know the deal. One of the things in comp sci that you should heavily consider is globalization. So I don't mean to get political about this, because in my head, it's just like, these are the facts. There's no two ways to view it. I know the lighting changed because my monitors went to sleep for a second. Anyway, globalization. So I think if you're American in particular, you have heard that manufacturing has shifted overseas, right? That the people here were making like $50,000, $60,000 a year to put cars together. They couldn't read or write, and their job didn't even require it. And they were able to find workers of whatever, similar or lesser or more greater caliber overseas, and they do their thing. Probably if you work in American manufacturing, or even if you just buy stuff, American stuff is good, right? If it says made in the USA on it, like to me, there's a certain connotation. Like, it's probably built with good materials. It was probably assembled in a good way. If you buy tools or work boots, like a lot, kind of guyish. So I buy tools and work boots. And if it says made in the USA on it, it's probably really good. If it says made in China, it could be anything, right? Like, I think my iPhone's made in China and I like it a lot, but, so is my Android, I think. But, oftentimes stuff made in China is bad materials and low quality control. So back to programming, American programmers will sometimes think that their job can't be moved or that they are safe because they do a better job at it. And I'm telling you, that's not true. That you are so expensive compared to your international competition that there are a lot of people who say, it doesn't really have to be perfect, so long as, it's affordable. And as a consumer, you can probably apply that to your own mindset and say, yeah, I've made that choice too. I bought a hammer and it didn't have to be a $90 made in the USA thing when there was a $25 made in China version that'll do okay. Yeah, maybe it's slightly different or not quite as great, but it's fine. And that it's fine thing applies to all sorts of products, including services, including you as a programmer. So that's a challenge. And what happens is countries that provide that service, like India is a real good one. The thing about Indians is they speak language a lot. They speak language. Yeah, great, Woody. They speak English a lot in India, which makes them easier to work with for American and a lot of European companies compared to Chinese guys, where the language barrier still kind of exists. Not all of the Chinese English isn't as widespread in China, and the English, like the accent, is just a little harder to work with than Indian guys. So Indian guys tend to get the benefit of the doubt. Indian software, huge. So what's happened is, as you see these, trying to get my hands just right, American salaries are dropping or just staying, and Indian salaries are rising. And when you get globalization, you get a global leveling of your standard of living. And it means that Americans are kind of dropping and globally they're kind of rising. And that's the thing. There's not a big barrier to entry to become a programmer. You don't even have to go to college for it. Like a company like Cisco wouldn't hire someone who didn't go to college, but a lot of companies will. So it's one of the last like professional jobs, a real white collar job that doesn't require college. But because it's so easy to get into, it's especially easy to outsource and push around. That's just the deal. And we're going to see that everywhere. The point I bring up with this is when you choose your career, if you're from a first world country, you should seriously think about how hard it is to take your job and put it in a place where the wages are lower. This is the kind of advice I would give my daughter. When she talks about what she wants to do and I hear speech therapist, I think awesome, right? Speech therapist, dentist, plumber, electrician. There are a lot of jobs that kind of have to exist here. And that's good if you live here. I'm in America. But it also applies if you're in the UK, or maybe you're in Norway, or maybe you're in Finland or something. These are places that pay well in comparison to India or China or Brazil. If you're in India or China and Brazil, you probably know these software jobs, or you learn American tax system and become an accountant. You can earn more by working for these American companies than maybe you could servicing the local guys. There's a tremendous amount of money in North America and Europe, and you can get some if you're in those other countries. But for the guys that are in North America and Europe, think twice about choosing a job that can easily be pushed offshore. That's a big deal. Yeah, that's a core message. If you're interested in comp sci and that's your passion, and you're like, Woody, man, you're really bringing me down. I wanted to be a programmer. That's all I wanted to be. Then there's still jobs here. That's definitely true. It's super nice to be near the people who have the problem, right? So, in Cisco, we call the people with the problem the business. And they would say like, hey, look, we want to have this new coupon, or hey, look, we'll have a new way in which, support customers come in, or like, I remember one project I worked on years ago. Told you it'd be a long video, so hang in there. At Cisco, they used to resell support contracts every year. So every year, salesmen get on the phone, call them and say, hey, your support contract's about to run out. Would you like to buy it again next year, etc.? And a lot of people would say no. Whereas if they changed their model to be more like a cell phone, where you don't choose every month to re-up your contract or even every year, it just kind of keeps going, right? Your cell phone contract keeps going until you call them and say no, thank you. So Cisco changed to a plan like that. And the impact on the billing and the way that we track which items are still in service and in the customer's data center and things like that, it was huge. Being next to the person who explains that problem is still an advantage that Americans have if they're working for American companies. Whereas when you work with, say, an Indian guy, one big issue is that almost all the communication takes a day, right? Because they're 12 hours apart. And you can stay up late, and that's one thing, or you can shoot them an email and expect the answer tomorrow, because while you send the email, they're sleeping, and while they reply to it, you're sleeping. And that's the nature of being far away. Another thing, and this is particularly for you Americans, if you like security, that's a good gig. A lot of security jobs in America require citizenship because they require clearance. Again, I'll apply this to Cisco. Sorry about the lighting. I'll apply this to Cisco. If you work for a big company, Cisco, General Motors, Ford, things like that, you probably have some government contracts involved. And then if you have government contracts involved, that means government security clearances that can only be given to citizens. And that is a natural, long-lasting advantage that citizens of that country will get. So, if what you really like about computers is hacking into them and DDoSing poor Minecraft server owners, then then that's to your advantage. You put on your white hat and get a security clearance and don't get in trouble for the crap that you've done already, and you'll be in good shape. There are jobs, senior, good-paying jobs that aren't eligible to be shipped overseas because they require security clearances with your country, and you can do that. So that's a thing. When I talk to my kids, I advise them to think about globalization when they pick a job, and which is not to say you'll forever regret a decision to choose a job that can be easily sent offshore. I could be wrong. I'm just a guy. But I think the odds are high. A lot of people are encouraged to go into software. And to me, as a guy with 15, 20 years of software experience, it sounds a little like encouraging them to go into manufacturing. What I really want to do is I like putting together iPhones. I'm sure I'll have a job doing that in Arizona forever. You sure? Be sure. If you're young and you're watching this and you're choosing your education, I'm sort of summing up now. I encourage you to think of it as a pie wedge. If you decide to be a nurse, your education isn't just prepping you to be a nurse. You might make a career switch into pharmaceutical sales, or you might make a career switch into occupational therapy, right? You might find that with your nursing degree, you're only like 6 courses away from a whole nother major and a whole nother career. You might find that with a, marketing degree, you're only 6 courses away from accounting. With a comp sci degree, you're only a couple courses away from this or that. Or you can always do a master's, right? You might get a, say like a a medical degree and then throw a master's on it, and you're eligible for some jobs that a lot of people aren't. You know, if you have a comp sci degree and you throw a master's on top of that, you're very likely to be chosen for some, you know, elite decision-making skills that require both a technical background and a business background. But yeah, if I were to sum this whole thing up, which has been kind of long form, I warned you, it's that when you choose your career path, you're not necessarily picking a particular job. You're picking a pie wedge of jobs. You're picking like a sector of the economy that you're likely to stay in for a long time. And when you pick your actual job, give some thought as to how replaceable you would be with someone who's not on site for a much lower wage. And that's the deal. I hope you liked this video, and let me know if you found any value in it. And have a good day.